If you're like me, you love to visit gardens where everywhere you turn there's a beautiful picture. We're talking framing the view coming up next. During my years as a garden designer, I've enjoyed helping homeowners create private sanctuaries full of beauty and wonder. I find each garden to be a fresh opportunity to explore and create uniquely personal spaces. These are just a few of the gardens I've helped transform into garden homes. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to The Garden Home, a show about design and blurring the lines between inside and out. Now, when I was in school in England, one of my professors told me, he said, Alan, when you think about designing a garden, you need to think like an artist. You need to frame the view and remember that good picture making is good garden design. And that's really what we're doing. In fact, today's show is about my third principle of design, framing the view. It is so important. It's this idea of framing out distractions and allowing you to focus on, well, exactly what you want the visitor to see in this picture you're going to paint. As you can imagine, framing the view also has to do with screening out the things that you don't want to see and opening up what you do want to see. It's a pretty basic principle. In today's show, I'm going to give you several examples that I've used here using this principle, number 3, of framing the view. We're also going to take a look at framing some botanicals, and we're going to talk about shutters, how they can be more energy efficient and add privacy to your home. But first, let's check into the Garden Home Retreat and see how construction is coming along, because we're still not finished with the house. Come on. I have to say I love my central heat and air system, and I particularly like this one because it's really low on energy use and very low on noise, which is perfect out here because I don't want the tranquility spoiled, but I also don't want to see them. So what we've done here is we've screened out the AC units, and we have now a view that looks down through here to the end or gable end of the summer kitchen. So we're framing a view and we're screening off a view we don't want to see. In my city garden, I've had to block off the view of my street in order to create peace and tranquility and a sense of enclosure. A combination of solid and transparent elements is an effective screen without screaming, "keep out." For instance, a picket fence encloses my property. Along the fence line, I've created a bank of evergreens, deciduous shrubs, roses, and small trees. You see, I place the bold evergreens where I want to completely shield a view, and I use other plants to accent the screening and frame the views. You see, this allows windows both in and out of the garden. Now what we're using here is some treated lumber, and it'll all be painted white to match the other gates and fence work around the property. We have gates that enter on each side of the house. We have gates that are down by the summer kitchen and the studio. And then once you get into the garden, we have arbors with gates on those, but the color changes from white to that wonderful comfort green. So you may be wondering what I'm going to do with regard to landscaping here between the fence and the walk. Well, actually I'm going to do some herbscaping. This is going to be an herb garden. It's very convenient to the kitchen, so I can come down here and clip whatever herbs I need. And then on each end in the back, I've planted a fall blooming camellia. It's evergreen, has gorgeous flowers. You can see some of the first blooms of the season. It'll create a backdrop for this, and I think that the green and the fencing is the perfect balance and complement for this particular area. I really enjoy framing views in the garden and around the house during celebrations and holiday times. For instance, here it's fall, so I use giant pumpkins on the front porch on each side of the steps, as well as these big wire urns filled with winter squash. Now, framing the view on the windows, well, the shutters are mainstays. They're there all the time, and it wasn't too long ago when shutter expert Rick Skidmore was here taking a look at how we were applying shutters to the Garden Home Retreat. Rick, I have to say that one of the things that I love about these shutters is that they just feel so authentic. It's just and the hinging, the way it's designed is just fantastic.
Yeah, they do look great. One of the things that using proper hardware will allow is to give an actual angle on the shutters, which makes them look more authentic.
Yeah, it's just the way the light plays on it. You know, you've got that flat surface of the building, and then you've got that slight angle of this element. It really adds so much.
It does. A proper application will actually have the shutter a little further away at the hinge side so that it lies back on a little bit of a canter.
Yeah. Now, if you look over at the shutter dog that they mounted onto the brick wall there, I'm sure there's a story as to why those are designed that way.
Well, there is. A typical shutter dog will be heavier in weight on the bottom so that it will actually, by gravity, just always hang properly. So you'll notice the bottom of the shutter dog is a little wider.
It is, yeah, okay. Interesting. Let's see if we can close this. Yeah, look at it.
Yeah.
Mine comes in first. Boy, you can tell the temperature just drops.
Instantly. Very noticeable.
Amazing. You know, in this world where we're all very concerned about energy consumption, there's got to be some value in having shutters if you can keep the temperature down like that on a hot summer day.
Absolutely. Remember, Alan, a louver shutter, that's what its original purpose was.
You designed these things so they work. And that's key. They have to work, not just have them tacked onto the side of the house.
They do, but in order for them to work, they actually have to be sized appropriately and hung with the proper hardware so they can actually close nice and neat like these did.
Yeah, I see. Well, I guess then if they close like this, when they're open, the proportions look just as they should.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Rick, I have to say that the light quality coming through that louvered shutter is really lovely. It creates a beautiful ambience.
It does. That's one of the nice things about a louver shutter. You get light filtration as well as ventilation.
And I guess the obvious thing is, of course, privacy.
Right. If a shutter is sized appropriately for the window and hung properly, you actually benefit from that as well.
Well, as you can see, Miss Big Fig is beginning to lose her leaves here at the end of the season. But you know, one of the things I like to do is figure out ways to bring the garden indoors and for them to last a long time. So let me show you a project that I did by pressing some interesting leaves from my garden. And among them are some of these gorgeous fig leaves. Stephen, I really appreciate you helping me with this project.
Alan, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Well, you know, I love any opportunity to bring something from the garden inside, and this is a great way to bring something inside that will last for a long time.
Indeed.
You know, last year I gathered a few things out of the garden, mainly ferns and some big broadleaf plants like this little arborvitae fern, and then I think we have a few left of the figs back here, which I think are so beautiful with their color. I think one of the most important steps that I've learned in this process is that if you will pick things and lay them out and press them, I stacked a bunch of books on top of this newsprint.
Right.
It was a way to take the moisture out of them and for them to hold their shape. And then after that, it was like, okay, now what do I do with them? And here's where you come in, and this is where I need your expertise with this project.
Well, okay, Alan. What we need to do is decide what goes in each frame. You're going to have a whole grouping here.
You're already
of
underway
six.
with this one.
Yes. And decide on the arrangement or placement of each leaf or fern frond, and then decide on the styling and take it from there.
And in this case, what we decided to do, I think, was just take a piece of board and simply mount them on there. But like you said, getting the arrangement down is important. And I see here you've
I'm still working on this one.
Yeah,
It's not quite finished yet, but it's coming along. This one is complete, however. And
How did you actually attach these?
well, Alan, what I've done is used a cotton thread.
Really?
And I've taken 2 or 3 tacks in each of these leaves. You can sort of see.
Oh, the thread. So it's a thread.
Yeah.
Now, from a preservation standpoint, what are some steps that one should follow to make sure these things last a long time?
Well, the first one is we mount it on a non-acidic rag board. So it's made of 100% cotton rag, and so there's no acid to affect the leaves or fronds. The next step is The glazing that's used is a UV glass. It screens the ultraviolet light and will keep the color from fading in the leaves. And then we are also using what is called a glass spacer.
Okay.
And that will keep the glass,
Because these do have some depth
thickness,
to them.
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
The stems can be
So this
thick.
little item is the glass spacer, and that is put in between the glass and the board, the rag board that the items are mounted on, and gives just that little 1/8 of an inch of space or so to make sure that the glass doesn't press down upon the subject.
You know, Stephen, here we used a very simple frame. I think it's a silver wash on red?
Yeah, it is, Alan. I thought this finish really complemented the colors that each of the leaves and ferns have, and it's not a very heavy molding.
Of course, there's so many frames one could choose from. I mean,
Oh, gosh.
I think going through all the ones you had here took more time than any part of the process.
Well, we finally honed it down, and I think we made an excellent choice.
You know, you've helped me do a lot of framing over the years, but this is the first time we've ever brought anything directly from the garden in here and said, hey, let's try to get it on the wall.
Yeah, why did it take so long?
I don't know. We'll have to do some more soon.
I hope to help you with some.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
Thank you. When you make a garden, you have to start with what you have. And what I had here was a wide open cow pasture with just a few large trees. So we tried to use the tree to help support this idea of framing the view. I certainly have an arbor behind me that frames the view, but the limbs of this post oak hang over and help frame the view beyond over to the focal point in the rondelle. Now, had I had different circumstances, such as a forest or a woodland, I would have done things entirely differently. A great example of this is Garvan Woodland Gardens, and Marla Kreider gives us a tour.
Garvan Woodland Gardens is one of only 8 public woodland gardens in the United States, and we are the only one located on a body of water. A first-time visitor that leaves the Welcome Center area, they will walk a path that will lead them to the Garden of the Pine Wind, where they will immediately see very free-flowing cascades and water features. And then they will meander to a beautiful koi pond, absolutely phenomenal cascade of water behind it. From there, they will follow a path along the shoreline of Lake Hamilton. And we also have the hardscapes, such as the Full Moon Bridge that go along with that. And it's a great place for family bonding. The professional artists, the amateur photographers, the folks that just need a little peace and tranquility. We managed to maintain it with about 35 to 40 people work year-round on planting, weeding, pruning, everything that they need to do. We are fortunate today to enjoy this beautiful garden because of Verna Cook Garvan, our benefactress, who loved this land and wanted to preserve it for generations to come. Later in her life, when she knew that she couldn't really handle the gardening duties anymore, is when she chose to give the property to the people of Arkansas to enjoy, and the public in general. And one of her last wishes was that this would become a world-class garden for the entire world to enjoy.
Now, what I want to show you here is the use of what I call a 4-season tree. These crab apples on each side frame the view of that arbor. Now, what I've used here is a variety called Narragansett. I love it because in the spring it has a beautiful reddish bud that opens white, so you get beautiful spring blooms. In the summer, the leaves are very clean, have no problems with disease or pest on them, just a nice glossy foliage. Then in the fall, you begin to see some golden leaves and the crab apples maturing. It's a great combination. And then in winter, well, it's covered with those wonderful little tiny crab apples, and the birds just love them. Now, what I've done here, you can see I've pruned the one over here up a little bit, and this one I'm going to prune up to match the other one. But I'm going to wait until the winter because I want to collect these berries and use them in the house for some Christmas decorating. Now take a look at the arbor behind me. There's 2 vines growing on it that I think you may be interested in. They're both very fast growing. One of them is an annual. It's a little morning glory that's white with just a speck of purple on it, very attractive. And its companion is a silver lace vine. It's perennial here, and in the fall it's covered with those tiny little lacy blossoms, a beautiful accent on the arbor. This is the time in the show where we take a look at photographs that you send to me of your homes. We play around with ideas that hopefully will give you some inspiration to make some changes. It's a virtual makeover, and today we're taking a look at a house in Indiana owned by Vicki. Now, as you can see, Vicki has a very narrow garden space here in the front, so we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I want to talk a little bit about color. She's got a definite color theme going on here, and you can see the butter yellow and the chocolate brown and the white. So what I would like to see you do, Vicki, is pay attention to this, the deck and the underpinning. And I think if we could take this color, the color on the shutter, and paint this dark so it sort of goes away, and the steps as well, I think that would help harmonize the garden very much. I do see this chain link fence over here. You want to make this a charming cottage based on your note to me. So I think we need to deal with that, and we will in just a moment. So why don't we get started here with just some ideas for plants and a way to make this really, really a charming place. I think one of the things that I would do from a hardscape standpoint is maybe widen the sidewalk just a little bit here. It seems very narrow, and you might even widen the step here and here just a bit. So that's about all I would do in changing the hardscape, except these island beds that you have here on the end. What I'd like to see you do, Vicki, is wrap those around and have them as a bed at the end or right at the back of your property. Now, to do that, what we may need to do is plant a hedge. It could be a holly hedge right here, and then you could have your flower garden in front of it with a path that comes around to this gate. And on this chain link fence, what we might do is plant a climbing rose. On this end, I do the same thing. Right on the property line, I'd come along with a low hedge, maybe 5 feet tall, and then create your flower bed here at the end in here with the hedge serving as a backdrop for the flowers. Then across the front, what I would do is do a low hedge with a boxwood, some sort here and here. Those little green velvet boxwoods are wonderful, and across like this. And this would help frame and contain the garden. Then here, once you get this painted dark, I would let a clematis grow up here. It could be a blue one, a purple one, whatever you like. White would fit certainly our theme. And then here on the front, I would tend to sort of frame the house if I could. I can't quite tell how close this tree is, so you have to take that into account. But what if we just had some beautiful flowering tree here on either side just to frame your house like that? That could be a gorgeous cherry tree, something like a Yoshino cherry. It could be dogwood. It could be a white bud, the white flowering red bud. But you see how this frames it so nicely. And then out here on the street, you could add another boxwood here and here. And it really says, hey, this is the entrance, and you go right up onto the front porch. I hope these ideas are helpful to you, Vicki. You have a charming place. I love the awning. Keep up the good work. If you know me, you know I love any kind of animal virtually as a pet. And one of my favorites would have to be chickens. And we're here at a poultry show, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to show you the difference between a standard breed, which you see behind me, and a bantam. Now, this particular variety or breed is called a barred Plymouth Rock. They're Plymouth Rocks, and they're called barred because of the barred feathers you see on their plumage. Now, What's interesting is that we have the Bantam form here, or the miniature, and the standard form there. This bird is over a year old, and look how tiny he is, and this bird is under a year old. In fact, he's only about 7 months old, so he'll actually get larger. Now, if you're thinking about keeping a few chickens, and they're great to have around for children, you may want to consider some of the little Bantam breeds because it doesn't take a lot of room to keep them. And some of them are very gentle. Some of the breeds that you might look into would be the Cochins. They're really gorgeous and they have lots of feathers all around their legs. And then another breed is a Silkie. Just take a look at their plumage. They look like powder puffs. And if you look really closely, you'll see they have turquoise earlobes. These were supposed to have been brought back from China by Marco Polo. And if you're looking for something that looks, well, rather modern, well, almost dinosaur-like, try the modern game. Just look how tall and slick this bird looks. These look like they might be menacing, but they're actually some of the most gentle of the Bantams. So you may be thinking, why would I want to have an alarm clock living in the backyard? Well, you may not want to, and you may not be able to because of your neighbors. But you could have just a few hens because the hens don't crow. In fact, my grandmother had a sign in her kitchen and she always reminded my granddad of that saying, the rooster may crow, but it's the hen who delivers the eggs. So think about it. You might just keep a few hens. You don't have to worry about the alarm clock in the backyard, and you can have some fun having some of these little guys around. I don't know if you've noticed, but I certainly think the art of dining at home sadly doesn't seem to be practiced as much these days as it was in the past. I enjoy entertaining by giving my guests something to really talk about when they come to my table to dine. By adding just a few creative touches to any table setting, you can spark some interesting reactions and conversations. Now, if you're like me, you collect many things. For instance, I like to collect old engraved prints of gardens, garden plans from the 18th century, and also like to collect an array of glass bottles. To set this scene, I've copied a few of my old garden prints and use them for placemats, and also use some of these antique flower frogs as a way to support place cards in front of each place setting. And don't forget about those glass bottles. By adding just a few branches from a fig tree, you add a touch of greenery to the table setting. And don't be afraid to mix and match those dishes. It creates a fun blend of styles. Now, the next time you have guests over for any occasion, look around your home. What do you collect? And how can you incorporate these into a unique table setting? Bring together elements from your home and the garden. This principle of framing the view really has nothing to do with the size of garden you have. It applies to vast, vast spaces and tiny places like this space. It's defined by these two espaliered Gala Apple trees. They produced gorgeous fruit back in the late summer, and now they serve as a way to frame the view to this little tool shed. In front of it, I have 4 raised beds, and they're full of herbs. And this particular space, it's only 20 feet wide. So you can see it really does apply to small spaces. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Until next time, from the Garden Home, I'm Alan Smith. More information about today's topic and other topics covered in this series can be found at plansmith.com.